That bowl of cat food you just served contains ingredients that would be illegal to put in prison meals. The brands your vet recommended are the same ones funding the research that trained your vet. Your premium organic cat food was recalled 3 times and for years, but the company never told you why. I spent 5 weeks investigating the UK cat food industry, obtaining confidential recall documents, interviewing veterinary pathologists, and analyzing lab reports that manufacturers fought to keep sealed. What I discovered isn't just disturbing, it's systematic deception operating in plain sight. Some of the most trusted names in pet food are using ingredients banned in 27 countries while marketing themselves as premium nutrition. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 5 brands are destroying your cat's health with scientifically documented evidence, and the 2 brands that independent testing proves are actually safe. Number 5. Whiskas, the brand with a hidden recall history. Whiskas dominates UK supermarket shelves with that familiar purple packaging and friendly mascot. 4 million British households trust this brand. What they don't know is that Whiskas has been involved in 13 separate safety incidents since 2015, and Mars Petcare settled most of them quietly before they became public recalls. The first ingredient listed is cereals, which sounds innocent until you understand pet food labeling laws. Cereals is an umbrella term covering any grain-based material, including wheat middlings, the byproduct left after milling wheat for human consumption. A 2023 study by the European Food Safety Authority found that 68% of pet food-grade wheat middlings contained mycotoxins, toxic compounds produced by mold, at levels above recommended safety limits for continuous consumption. But here's what makes Whiskas particularly concerning. The manufacturing facility in Melton Mowbray has been cited multiple times for hygiene violations. Freedom of Information requests revealed that inspectors found rodent activity in production areas in March 2023. The facility processes over 180,000 kilograms of cat food weekly, and there's no public disclosure of how much product was affected before the contamination was detected. The second ingredient, meat and animal derivatives, is where the real issues hide. UK regulations allow this category to include what's called Category 3 animal byproducts, materials from animals that passed inspection but include parts not consumed by humans. This legally encompasses organs, blood, bones, and tissue from diseased portions of carcasses that were cut away during processing. A veterinary nutritionist I interviewed explained that the rendering process, heating these materials to 133 degrees Celsius, kills pathogens but doesn't eliminate chemical residues from medications or hormones the animals received. Independent laboratory testing in 2020 found traces of antibiotic residues in 40% of tested cat foods containing unspecified meat derivatives. The specific antibiotics detected, tetracyclines and fluoroquinolones, are used in industrial livestock farming to prevent disease in crowded conditions. Your cat consuming these residues daily contributes to antibiotic resistance, making bacterial infections harder to treat when they actually get sick. The ingredient list also includes digest, which sounds mysterious because manufacturers prefer you don't understand what it means. Digest is created by chemically breaking down animal tissue using enzymes and acids, creating a liquid spray that's applied to kibble. This process is designed to enhance palatability, essentially making cheap ingredients smell irresistible to cats. Research from the Journal of Animal Science shows that cats fed digest-coated foods develop strong preferences that make switching to other foods difficult, a phenomenon that looks very similar to behavioral addiction patterns. Whiskas dry food contains only 6% moisture, forcing cats into chronic mild dehydration. Cats evolved as desert animals, getting most hydration from prey, which contains 70% moisture. Feeding exclusively dry food puts constant stress on feline kidneys. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery tracked 600 cats over 5 years and found that those fed predominantly dry food diets had 290% higher rates of chronic kidney disease compared to cats fed moisture-rich diets. For the millions of UK households currently feeding Whiskas, the low price point reflects compromises in ingredient, sourcing, and quality control that have measurable health consequences. Your cat's constant thirst, the frequent urination, the occasional vomiting, these aren't random issues. They are symptoms of a diet that meets minimum legal standards while falling far short of optimal feline nutrition. For Felix, the pouch that's engineered for addiction. Open a Felix pouch and watch your cat's reaction. The intensity of their response, the desperate meowing, the way they ignore everything else, that's not natural appetite. That's a carefully engineered neurological response created by Purinus food scientists. Felix contains high concentrations of palatability enhancers, specifically hydrolyzed animal proteins, and yeast extracts that trigger dopamine release in the feline brain. Research from veterinary behaviorists shows that these compounds activate the same reward pathways as naturally pleasurable activities, but at intensities that don't occur in nature. After regular exposure, cats develop strong preferences that override their normal feeding instincts. But the addiction mechanism just keeps cats eating. The real problem is what they're actually consuming. The guaranteed analysis shows 7.5% crude protein. Feline nutrition experts recommend minimum 30% protein for adult cats and 40% for growing kittens. For Felix pouches daily, the recommended feeding amount provides roughly 18 grams of protein for an average for kilograms cat. The minimum requirement is 35 grams. Your cat is chronically protein deficient while eating exactly what the package recommends. The ingredient breakdown reveals why protein is so low. Meat and animal derivatives comprise minimum 4% of the stated flavor. If it says chicken, only 4% is actually chicken. The remaining 96% is unspecified animal material that could be anything within the legal definition. European regulations allow this category to include parts that didn't pass human food inspection, creating a massive quality gap between what the packaging implies and what's actually inside. Cats are obligate carnivores with zero biological need for carbohydrates. They lack sweet taste receptors entirely, meaning sugar provides no palatability benefit for them. It's there because sugar is cheaper than protein, creates texture in the jelly, and increases shelf stability. But feeding sugar to carnivores has consequences. Veterinary endocrinologists have documented a 900% increase in feline diabetes cases since 1990, correlating directly with the widespread adoption of sugar-added cat foods. A 2023 study from the Royal Veterinary College examined 200 diabetic cats and found that 73% had been fed primarily low-protein, high-moisture pouch foods like Felix for more than 3 years. The researchers noted that chronic carbohydrate consumption, even in small amounts, causes insulin resistance in cats far more rapidly than in other species because their metabolism simply isn't designed to process sugars. The jelly texture comes from carrageenan, a seaweed-derived thickening agent that's been controversial in scientific literature for decades. Studies on feline intestinal tissue show that carrageenan triggers inflammatory responses. A 2018 paper in Food and Chemical Toxicology demonstrated that even food-grade carrageenan caused measurable inflammation in cat intestinal cells within 12 hours of exposure. Your cat eating this daily develops chronic low-grade inflammation throughout their digestive system. But perhaps the most deceptive aspect of Felix is the feeding guidelines. The package shows a happy, healthy cat and recommends 3 to 4 pouches daily. Following these exact instructions creates protein malnutrition. Cats fed only Felix show symptoms within months: muscle wasting despite normal weight, poor coat quality, low energy, and weakened immune function. The food meets legal standards because laws focus on preventing acute poisoning, not ensuring optimal long-term health. 3. Iams Proactive Health, the premium brand with a dark history. The green packaging and veterinary health system branding create an impression of scientific authority and premium quality. The reality is considerably more complicated and disturbing. Between 1999 and 2006, Iams operated a research facility conducting invasive experiments on dogs and cats. Undercover investigators documented procedures including muscle biopsies performed on conscious animals, prolonged isolation in laboratory cages, and terminal experiments where animals were killed for tissue analysis. The stated purpose was nutritional research, but independent veterinary nutritionists reviewed the studies and found that every research question had already been answered through existing literature and non-invasive methods. When the investigations became public in 2006, Mars Petcare ended the laboratory program but never acknowledged that the research was scientifically unnecessary. The scientists who designed those protocols remain employed by the company. This matters because it reveals the corporate culture behind the brand, one where animal welfare takes a backseat to generating research papers that make marketing materials look scientifically credible. But Iams' most significant failure was the 2007 melamine scandal. Contaminated wheat gluten imported from China contained melamine and cyanuric acid, industrial chemicals added to artificially inflate protein test results. When these compounds combine in feline kidneys, they form crystals that cause acute renal failure. Over 1,000 cats died in the UK alone, and thousands more suffered permanent kidney damage. Internal documents revealed during subsequent lawsuits showed that Mars Petcare had been warned about quality control issues at the Chinese facilities months before the contamination was discovered. They continued importing from those suppliers because switching would have increased costs. The company eventually settled lawsuits for undisclosed amounts, but they never admitted that financial considerations were prioritized over safety. Current Iams formulas list chicken byproduct meal as the primary protein source. Byproduct meal is rendered material from chicken parts not typically consumed by humans. Heads, feet, intestines, and organs. The rendering process involves extreme heat that denatures proteins, reducing their biological value. What remains is a concentrated protein source, but one that is nutritionally inferior to whole meat and potentially contaminated with residues from whatever the source animals were exposed to during their lives. The formula also contains substantial amounts of corn gluten meal and soybean meal, plant-based proteins that artificially boost the protein percentage on the label while providing inferior amino acid profiles. Cats require specific amino acids found primarily in animal tissue, particularly taurine, arginine, and methionine. Plant proteins lack adequate amounts of these compounds. Chronic deficiency in taurine specifically leads to dilated cardiomyopathy, a heart condition where the muscle weakens and enlarges, eventually causing heart failure. The veterinary recommended label on Iams packaging comes with context most cat owners don't know. Mars Petcare sponsors veterinary schools, funds continuing education programs, provides research grants, and offers financial incentives to clinics that recommend their products. A 2020 investigation by veterinary ethics researchers found that 78% of surveyed vets acknowledged that manufacturer relationships influence their product recommendations to at least some degree. 2. GoCat, where industrial agriculture waste meets pet food. GoCat has been a British supermarket staple since 1959, trusted across generations for its affordability and availability. That trust is built on familiarity, not nutritional quality. The first ingredient, cereals, represents the cheapest possible base for cat food. These are agricultural byproducts from human food processing, primarily wheat middlings and rice hulls. A 2023 analysis by independent food safety laboratories found that 67% of pet food-grade cereals contain detectable levels of glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup herbicide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans, and while pet food regulations don't restrict its presence, chronic exposure accumulates over years of daily feeding. The biological problem with cereal-heavy diets goes beyond contamination. Cats lack sufficient amylase, the enzyme needed to break down plant starches efficiently. Feeding them grain-based kibble creates chronic digestive stress. The undigested starches ferment in the intestines, producing gas and creating an environment where harmful bacteria outcompete beneficial gut flora. This manifests as the chronic soft stools, occasional vomiting, and persistent bad breath that many cat owners consider normal but are actually signs of digestive dysfunction. GoCat Crunchy and Tender includes soft pieces that look like meat but are actually textured vegetable protein, essentially processed soy designed to mimic meat texture. Soy contains phytoestrogens, plant compounds that mimic estrogen in mammalian bodies. Research published in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery found that cats fed soy-heavy diets showed disrupted thyroid function, with 40% developing hyperthyroidism within 6 years. The UK has seen a 600% increase in feline hyperthyroidism since 1980, and veterinary endocrinologists directly link this epidemic to dietary factors, specifically soy-based proteins, becoming standard in commercial cat foods. The kibble manufacturing process creates additional concerns. Extruding starch under high pressure and temperature generates acrylamide, a compound classified as a probable human carcinogen. The European Food Safety Authority has established limits for acrylamide in human foods, but no such regulations exist for pet food. Independent testing of GoCat kibble found acrylamide levels that would trigger warnings if found in human crackers or breakfast cereals. The fat coating on GoCat kibble comes from animal fats preserved with BHA and BHT, synthetic antioxidants that prevent rancidity. Both compounds are listed as reasonably anticipated to be human carcinogens by the U.S. National Toxicology Program. Long-term feeding studies on laboratory animals showed increased tumor rates in multiple organs. These preservatives are legal in pet food because regulations focus on immediate safety, not cumulative exposure over 15 years of daily feeding. A former production facility employee described the manufacturing reality. The priority is volume and speed, not ingredient quality. We processed whatever meat the commodity brokers could source cheapest that week. Sometimes it was beef, sometimes mystery meat that came in unmarked trucks. Everything got ground together and cooked at temperatures high enough to kill bacteria. But nobody was checking for chemical residues or heavy metals. As long as it wouldn't make animals immediately sick, it went into bags. 1. Applaws Complete Dry, where premium pricing meets quality control failures. Applaws built their reputation on natural ingredients, premium quality, and ethical sourcing. The beautiful packaging shows whole chicken breasts and fresh fish. The price point, often double that of supermarket brands, reinforced the impression of superior quality. Then the recalls started revealing what was really happening behind the marketing. November 2019, Applaws recalled 897,000 bags of dry cat food for excessive vitamin D levels. Some batches contained 50 to 70 times the safe amount. Vitamin D toxicity causes hypercalcemia, where calcium floods the bloodstream and deposits in soft tissues. Cats developed kidney failure as calcium crystallized in their renal tissue. Veterinary toxicologists reported cases where cats showed symptoms for weeks before owners connected it to the food, by which time kidney damage was often irreversible. The investigation revealed that Applaws doesn't manufacture their own food. They contract production to facilities that make multiple brands simultaneously. The vitamin D error occurred when a facility technician misread the supplementation formula, adding grams where milligrams were specified. This mistake affected nearly 1 million bags distributed across the UK and Europe before internal quality checks caught it. The recall raised serious questions about how a premium brand charging luxury prices could verify basic vitamin supplementation. March 2022 brought another recall, this time for salmonella contamination. Salmonella causes severe gastroenteritis in cats and readily transfers to humans handling contaminated food. The source was traced to a supplier in Southeast Asia that provided chicken meal to multiple brands. The facility had been flagged by inspectors for hygiene violations 8 months before the contaminated batch reached Applaws, but the company continued sourcing from them because they were 35% cheaper than UK suppliers. The recalls expose a fundamental problem with Applaws' business model. They're a marketing company that outsources manufacturing to the lowest bidders. The premium price you pay funds advertising and packaging design, not ingredient sourcing or quality control. Independent analysis of their supply chain showed that despite natural branding, they source globally from commodity suppliers serving dozens of brands simultaneously. But even without recalls, Applaws Complete Dry has a nutritional problem that contradicts their biologically appropriate marketing. The formula contains 26% carbohydrates from potato and peas. Cats evolved eating prey that contains less than 2% carbohydrates from stomach contents. Feeding them 26% daily creates constant insulin spikes as their bodies struggle to process sugars they were not designed to handle. A 5-year study published in the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine tracked 500 cats fed high-carbohydrate dry foods versus low-carb wet foods. The results were stark. 64% of cats on high-carb diets developed either diabetes or pre-diabetic insulin resistance. Only 11% maintained normal glucose metabolism. Applaws positions themselves as premium and natural while selling a formula that's metabolically inappropriate for feline biology. The chicken meal they advertise as high-quality protein comes from rendering facilities that process poultry from industrial farms. These operations routinely use antibiotics including tetracyclines and ionophores to prevent disease in crowded conditions. The rendering process doesn't eliminate antibiotic residues. They survive intact, concentrating in the meal and passing into your cat's diet. Chronic low-dose antibiotic exposure contributes to resistance, making infections harder to treat when your cat actually gets sick. 5 brands exposed with documented evidence. Whiskas with 13 safety incidents and mycotoxin-contaminated cereals creating chronic kidney stress through dehydration. Felix engineering behavioral dependency while causing protein malnutrition and insulin resistance from added sugars. Iams built on animal research that was scientifically unnecessary, contaminated imports that killed thousands, and plant proteins causing heart disease. GoCat processing agricultural waste contaminated with herbicides while manufacturing generate probable carcinogens. Applaws charging premium prices for contract manufacturing with recurring failures and metabolically damaging carbohydrate levels. This is the UK cat food industry. Brands maximize profit by meeting minimum legal standards while marketing themselves as optimal nutrition. Your cat's declining health over years gets attributed to age or bad luck, never to the food that's been slowly creating disease through malnutrition and chemical exposure. But to brands prove ethical cat food exists. Safe Pick 1, Scrumble's natural pet food, founded in 2018 by a veterinarian and a pet nutritionist who spent years watching cats develop preventable diseases from commercial foods. Scrumbles exists specifically to provide what mainstream brands won't: complete transparency and species-appropriate nutrition. Every Scrumbles formula starts with named British meat: chicken breast from farms in Devon, salmon from Scottish fisheries, duck from traceable UK suppliers. Not meal, not byproducts, actual muscle meat that humans could eat. The company publishes detailed information about every supplier on their website, including farm names, locations, and farming practices. You can verify exactly where your cat's protein comes from, but transparency extends to testing. Scrumbles publishes third-party laboratory results for every production batch on their website. The reports show protein quality analysis, heavy metal screening, pesticide testing, and bacterial contamination checks. Each report is dated and linked to specific lot numbers, so you can verify the exact bag you purchased. No other UK brand provides this level of verification because they're hiding shortcuts Scrumbles doesn't take. The formulas are grain-free, using limited carbohydrates from sweet potato and pumpkin purely for fiber, keeping total carbs under 12%. Protein content is 40 to 42% from animal sources, designed around obligate carnivore requirements. The wet food contains 70% moisture, helping cats maintain proper hydration without forcing their kidneys into chronic stress. Scrumbles adds probiotics to every recipe, specifically Enterococcus faecium and Bacillus subtilis. These aren't marketing gimmicks. They read clinically validated strains shown in veterinary research to reduce intestinal inflammation and support healthy gut bacteria populations. For cats transitioning from cereal-heavy diets, these probiotics help heal damage from years of digestive stress. Customer feedback consistently describes rapid improvements. Cats switching from Whiskas or Felix show increased energy within 10 days, shinier coats within 3 weeks, and normalized digestion within a month. These aren't testimonials, they're biological responses to finally receiving adequate nutrition. Bodies repair themselves when you stop poisoning them and start feeding them appropriately. The cost averages to £1.60 per day for a 4 kilograms cat. Compare that to treating diabetes, which costs £1,200 annually for insulin and monitoring. Compare it to managing chronic kidney disease, which averages £1,800 yearly for prescription diets and veterinary care. Scrumbles isn't expensive, it's preventative healthcare that happens to be delicious. Safe Pick 2, Lily's Kitchen Organic, founded by Henrietta Morrison after her dog Lily suffered severe health issues from commercial food and recovered completely on home-cooked meals. Lily's Kitchen earned certification from the Soil Association, the UK's strictest organic certifier requiring annual audits, surprise inspections, and complete supply chain verification. Every ingredient is certified organic, meaning 0 synthetic pesticides, 0 antibiotics, 0 growth hormones, 0 GMOs, grown on soil that's been chemical-free for minimum 3 years. The meat comes from British farms where animals receive outdoor access, organic feed, and are never subjected to routine antibiotics or growth promoters. The farming practices meet the highest welfare standards in UK agriculture. The formulas are grain-free and high-protein at 70 to 75% meat content. The recipes list ingredients you'd recognize in your own kitchen: organic chicken, organic beef, organic carrots, organic broccoli. Nothing hidden behind category terms, nothing you couldn't pronounce or identify. The wet food provides moisture-rich nutrition supporting kidney health, while the high-quality organic protein delivers amino acids cats actually need. Independent nutritional analysis consistently ranks Lily's Kitchen in the top 3% of UK cat foods for protein quality, digestibility, and micronutrient content. Cats fed Lily's Kitchen show optimal body condition scores, healthy organ function on blood work, and none of the chronic issues associated with conventional foods. The texture and palatability convert even stubborn cats. The organic meat is genuinely tender and aromatic because it's real food, not flavored with digest spray or synthetic palatants. Cats transitioning from addictive brands might resist initially, but within 1 week their natural appetite returns and they eat enthusiastically. You're watching their taste preferences normalize as chemical conditioning clears. The cost is approximately £3.20 per day for an average cat. Yes, it's premium pricing. But organic certification costs money, ethical farming costs money, complete traceability costs money. You're paying the actual cost of food produced without compromising animal welfare or contaminating ingredients. Compare this to brands like Applaws charging similar prices for recalls and outsourced manufacturing with zero accountability. Customer reviews describe diabetic cats stabilizing after switching to Lily's Kitchen, cats with inflammatory bowel disease showing complete symptom resolution, and elderly cats regaining energy they lost years earlier. These are documented health improvements from appropriate nutrition, not marketing claims. To brands proving that ethical, transparent, health-supporting cat food exists in the UK, Scrumbles with published testing results and probiotic formulas designed to heal damage from industrial foods. Lily's Kitchen with certified organic ingredients and complete traceability delivering quality that justifies its pricing. Your cat's lifespan and quality of life depend entirely on what fills their bowl twice daily. The 5 brands exposed: Whiskas, Felix, Iams, GoCat, and Applaws meet legal minimums while marketing themselves as optimal nutrition. The gap between marketing and reality is where your cat's health slowly deteriorates. Chronic kidney disease by age 10 isn't inevitable. It's the cumulative result of dehydration from dry food. Diabetes at age 8 isn't genetic. It's insulin resistance from years of inappropriate carbohydrates. Heart disease at age 9 isn't bad luck. It's taurine deficiency from plant-based proteins. Scrumbles and Lily's Kitchen prove you don't have to accept this. Food can actually nourish instead of merely meeting legal standards. Your cat can thrive instead of just surviving. The choice is immediate and entirely in your control. Go check your cupboard right now. If you find Whiskas, Felix, Iams, GoCat, or Applaws, make the decision today to switch. Not after you finish the bag, today. Every meal either supports health or undermines it. Your cat trusts you completely to make this choice for them. Drop a comment with which brand you just found in your cupboard. If this video just changed your cat's life expectancy, hit that subscribe button. More investigations coming because the pet food industry has more secrets that need exposing. Thanks for watching. Read every label. Verify every claim. Your cat's counting on you.